In Jamaica, human rights lobby group Jamaicans for Justice JFJ is urging the country to embrace the prisoner transfer agreement with Britain. JFJ chairperson Horace Levy says the country should move with urgency to address the poor conditions in which prisoners are kept. He says the group is strongly in favor of building a new prison to ensure convicted criminals are rehabilitated. He says the situation in the island's correctional facilities can only be described as dungeons.
I've seen how prisoners are crowded, three and more than three, into a single cell that can barely hold one, so that one or two have to be slung in hammocks above the others. Sometimes they fall out in the middle of the night, or, of course, they have diarrhea or vomiting or something, and everybody suffers. So I know what the conditions are like. They're atrocious. And atrocious also is the way that those who are regarded as homosexuals are treated in a separate block and can't even mingle with the others in certain respects. That's slowly breaking down, but it was terrible to the point where they had to sit separately at the back. They couldn't be out at the same time. They couldn't go to the tuck shop at the same time, and so on. So we're quite familiar with conditions there and in St. Catherine as well. I mean, some of the old cells going back 100, 200 years, it's just, it's appalling. Real caves where those with mental disorders have been confined. Lighting, non-existent, rats, airless, hot. You have to see it to believe it.
British Prime Minister Cameron, during his visit to Jamaica, recently announced that he will be providing £25 million to assist in building a new prison. The facility will replace the Tower Street and St. Catherine Adult Correctional Centres. However, as part of the deal, the UK will repatriate at least 300 UK prisoners of Jamaican descent. Mr. Levy says Jamaicans should await the full details of the proposed agreement before casting judgment.
We're assuming in arguing for accepting the gift that reasonable terms will be worked out, because up to now those terms have not been fully clarified and settled. Yes, I know he said 300, but in the case of Nigeria, which has more prisoners in British prisons than Jamaica does, and Jamaica has Jamaicans there, it's only a handful, literally a handful on one hand or two hands, that have actually been transferred to Nigerian prisons. So the cap may be 300, but the actual number will very much depend on what our judges here say with regard to each individual prisoner, because it has to go through the courts here. So I think we really need to wait for the terms to be settled, because on the one hand, Mr. Cameron is saying in England that an agreement has been reached. Minister Bunting is saying no agreement has been reached at all. We're prepared to work out an agreement with them. We have asked, as you said, Jamaica has asked for something along these lines. So that matter has to be resolved. And it is assuming that reasonable terms are reached in that negotiation.